What's up, everybody? It is August 30th. Welcome to another episode of Stand Tall. So, as you guys know, we're on chapter 11, which is the 9 situations. And you guys also know that that's got like 68 verses. Some of them are short and some of them are pretty long. So, on this special daily edition of Stand Tall, we're going to be reading through verses 20 to 28. So, let's get started and dive right in, starting with 20. The following are the principles to be observed by an invading force. The farther you penetrate into a country, the greater will be the solidarity of your troops, and thus the defenders will not prevail against you. So the further you get into it, the longer you go, the more in it your team and your troops are going to be. 21. Make forays into fertile country in order to supply your army with food. Okay, so like always be tactful, always be tactical about where you're moving into. 22. Carefully study the well being of your men and do not overtax them. Concentrate your energy and hoard your strength. Keep your army continually on the move and devise unfathomable plans. All right, so every single part of that almost is just like is so deep in and of itself. Like he carefully crafted this. Carefully study the well being of your men. Well being is an encompassing term meaning different things to different people at different times, especially in warfare. Don't overtax them. This also applies generally to a lot of different things. So the thought in it was a generalization of like, don't overburden them. Concentrate your energy and hoard your strength. Be wise about expending your energy. For me, one of the things I've been struggling with still to this day is as you grow your skill set, having to operate on almost weekly, monthly, quarterly plans as opposed to just daily things and figuring out the week and all of that. Now it's like these grand plans and grand strategies just to maintain order. And so having days of planning and strategizing feel a lot of times like doing nothing. And so I can easily get distracted and not concentrate my energy and do things like get distracted with other household chores. So sometimes it is better to be at rest in order to hoard your energy. 23. Throw your soldiers into positions whence there is no escape, and they will prefer death to flight. If they will face death, there is nothing they may not achieve. Officers and men alike will put forth their uttermost strength. Well, I think as brutal as that is, the lesson to be learned is deadlines. Deadline is death in a way. Um, if you are disciplined enough with yourself, then you can achieve a lot of things. And so if you just make it, the power of the mind is powerful. If that's a silly thing to say out loud, but it's true. If you give yourself enough stakes that death is the end all be all or whatever, then you're gonna step up and accomplish whatever it needs to be done. 24. Soldiers, when in desperate straits, lose the sense of fear. If there's no place of refuge, they will stand firm. If they are in hostile country, they will show a stubborn front. If there's no help for it, they will fight hard. Kind of the same thing. I don't know. I look back at times like when I play video games, and it's like if I'm in desperate, I lose fear and I go out and I just like get out of cover and just try to shoot people, and then I just end up dying. But I think if real life, it would be way different than that. So I guess really it is just another metaphor for how powerful your mind is, and so sometimes, yeah, it's a thin line. Okay, 25. Thus, without waiting to be marshaled, the soldiers will be constantly on the qui vive. Without waiting to be asked, they will do your will. Without restrictions, they will be faithful. Without giving orders, they can be trusted. So it's like be aware of them, solidarity, take care of your army when on the march. So that way, without waiting to be marshaled, they'll do all of this stuff. They can be trusted. They will do your will without restrictions. They will be faithful. 26. Prohibit the taking of omens, and do away with superstitious doubts. Then, until death itself comes, no calamity need be feared. 27. If our soldiers are not overburdened with money, it is not because they have a distaste for riches. If their lives are not unduly long, it is not because they are disinclined to longevity. 28. On the day they are ordered out to battle, your soldiers may weep, those sitting up bedewing their garments, and those lying down letting the tears run down their cheeks. But let them once be brought to bay, and they will display the courage of Chu or Kuei. Yeah, man. Okay, so I mean, it's tough when you get called into war. So it's a solemn day. I don't know. I guess back then they cried knowing that they were probably going to die a very painful death. Might have been a little different. Anywho, the alternate translation, we're going to breeze through it because instead of me giving a reflection, we're going to let Du Mu, Wang Chi, Cao Cao, Chen Hao, and all the other master generals reflect. Master Sun says the condition of a military forces. Okay, so that was yesterday. Master Sun says, in general, the pattern of invasion is that invaders become more intense the farther they enter alien territory, to the point where the native rulership cannot overcome them. Du Mu says, the pattern of invasive attack is that if they enter deeply into enemy territory, soldiers come to have the determination to fight to the death. They are single-minded, so the native rulers cannot beat them. So we're seeing the same thing said differently. See if you can hear the differences and drop your comments in the video comment section what you gleaned from rich fields of the text that we're reading. Master Sun says, glean from the rich fields and the armies will have enough I know, I'm so silly. That was dumb. Glean from rich fields and the armies will have enough to eat. It's the worst pun in the world. Take care of your health to avoid stress, consolidate your energy, and build up your strength. Maneuver your troops and assess strategies so as to be unfathomable. So, like, don't be able to be figured out. Be an enigma. Ling Chi says, consolidate your keenest energy, save up your extra strength, keep your form concealed and your plans secret, being unfathomable to enemies, waiting for a vulnerable gap to advance upon. Master Sun says, put them in a spot where they have no place to go, and they will die before fleeing. If they are to die there, what can they not do? Warriors exert their full strength. When warriors are in great danger, then they have no fear. When there is nowhere to go, they are firm. When they are deeply involved, they stick to it. If they have no choice, they will fight. Cao Cao says, when people are desperate, they will fight to the death. For this reason, the soldiers are, Master Sun says, for this reason, the soldiers are alert without being drilled, enlist without being drafted, are friendly without treaties, and trustworthy without commands. So, Du Mu says, what this means is that when warriors are in mortal danger, everyone high and low has the same aim. So they are spontaneously on alert without being drilled, are spontaneously sympathetic without being drafted, and are spontaneously trustworthy without treaties or commands. So that just goes back to like national identity and clansmanship, tribalship coming together with your people. Master Sun says prohibit omens to get rid of doubt, and soldiers will never leave you. If your soldiers have no extra goods, it is not like they dislike material goods. If they have no more life, it is not that they do not want to live long. On the day the order to march goes out, the soldiers weep. Cao Cao says they abandon their goods and go to their death because they have no choice. They weep because they all intend to go to their death. Du Mu says, if they have valuable possessions, soldiers may become attached to them and lack the spirit to fight to the death, and all are pledged to die. Wang Chi says they weep because they are also stirred up. Stirred up, I think, has a different emotional intentionality than, like when you're stirred up, like, like basically any sad part of the Lion King, like gets you stirred up. That's what I think he means. August 30th, when you feel lazy, Ryan Holiday, Stephen Hanselman, guys, Daily Stoic, pick up a copy. Go to a local bookstore, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, read a couple verses, and then pick up a copy. And then after you've done that a couple of times, start giving it to friends. August 30th, when you feel lazy. Anything that must yet be done, virtue can do with courage and promptness, for anyone would call it a sign of foolishness for one to undertake a task with a lazy and begrudging spirit, or to push the body in one direction and the mind in another, to be torn apart apart by wildly divergent impulses. Seneca, Moral Letters, 74.31b-32. If you start something and right away feel yourself getting lazy and irritated, first ask yourself, why am I doing this? If it really is a necessity, ask yourself, what's behind my reluctance? Fear, spite, fatigue? Don't forge ahead hoping that someone will come along and relieve you of the task that you don't want to do, or that someone else will suddenly explain why what you're doing matters. Don't be the person who says yes with their mouth but no with their actions. Steve Jobs told Business Week in 2005, only midway through Apple's stunning rise to becoming one of the world's most valuable companies, quality is much better than quantity. One home run is much better than two doubles. Wow. There was like an explosion of correlations in my mind there between the art of war and then why am I doing this? Ask myself, am I irritated? Because I'm like, why am I getting lazy? And then when Seneca is talking about pushing the body in one direction and pushing the mind in another, and we were just in the art of war talking about like sending soldiers to their death. If you as the supreme commander, okay, so like this is not coming from a place of like well versed, I would say well educated, but well not well versed of like the Jungian term of like your id, your shadow self, your id and your shadow self, I guess, but like also the other psychological framing behind like you are God, right? Like this is your world. So like if your thoughts are evil or whatever, and it's like you need to send those, it might be laziness in this sense, these lazy thoughts that you have of like, well, I want to do XYZ, it's my birthday, yada yada yada. I can do whatever I want to. However, you need to get out there and do the things that are going to keep increasing the quality, and just like any true stoic, today is just another day. And so you need to send those lazy thoughts to their death, and it might be sad and it might not feel good and it might get you all stirred up. But the thing is these material goods are what are keeping you lazy, right? Your PlayStations, your Xboxes, your video games, your certain books. Hell, I mean, books in and of themselves, I love reading books, but the truth is, like, you can only read so much history. There's all this history to read, and as nerdy as it is, I mean, I'm loving this economic history and reading people's journals and from the stock market era and what they've done in hedge fund titans from the past. It's all very fun and interesting, and it's given me some ideas, but like nothing that's like entirely actionable at this time. So what this means is like there are other things that people need to be doing in the moment that are actionable, that you can get up and go get involved, go be out there in the world, go do something. Don't just wait around. Don't just wait around. Where does it say that? Or that someone else will suddenly explain why what you're doing matters. Don't worry about it. If you have your purpose, no one else needs to give you your purpose. If you keep standing tall and you keep doing your duty, your pragmatism, all of the stuff, if you keep operating thusly and keep standing tall, keep being good to one another, you're going to make it. Thanks for joining me on this extra special long edition. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you on the next one.